the end of pre-season on the pitch. It's a 3-2 win against RAYNERS LANE. Happy with that?
Yeah, I think we would have been for about 80 minutes of the game. Obviously conceding 2 goals isn't something that we'll ever be proud of. Just going off the back of Saturday, I think a lot of our talk was about how defensively sound we looked. Stopping a lot of their threats, didn't really have to concede any chances on Saturday. I think tonight, for the majority, we looked very, very good. But obviously, as soon as you concede 1, then 2, and get them, the game comes back as a draw, you have a bit of a negative feeling about the game. But we've then gone up the other end and got ourselves a goal, which at the end of the day, in a league game, gets you the 3 points. So that was important. So yeah, majority of the game we'd be proud of and happy with, but just the defensive side of conceding 2 is something that we've got to get right.
So as you said, the games on the pitch have now finished. We played teams at step 5, step 3, step 4, 1-3, I think. Overall, your thoughts on it all?
I just think you can see the back end of pre-season where we start really coming together as a team. I've said it all along, every interview near enough, where we've touched on defensively where we know we haven't looked good enough, and I've mentioned in terms of recruitment how you've had to play the long game, and I think off camera we've had a lot of chats about some of the centre halves that we've been just keeping the door open for, keeping chats alive with, showing them a little bit of love, and you can suddenly see in the last 2 games we've looked a lot better defensively, and that's just down to us having to stay patient potentially to get a few bodies through the door. I'm a firm believer of that. I said it in an interview where you allow people to go and express themselves at a higher level. If they don't get in, the door's open. So yeah, I think as pre-season's gone on, we've looked more of a threat. We've looked more defensively sound, and now we've got trimmed our group down. It's about getting the fine details ready for the 9th of August.
Defensively, we've only kept 1 clean sheet, which is maybe a concern. But the good news is that Nikolai Krokin has signed for the club. How important was that for you?
I think last year, obviously, he came in at a very difficult period. He was then joined by Jardel, and I think if we'd potentially had them for a longer spell in regards to where we came in, we would have found ourselves potentially in a different position, because I think they were key to a lot of the good things that we did in that short period of time, and I think to have them both back at this level is very, very important for us. They were being looked at levels above 1 and 2, so to have them back with us is important. I think you've seen that in the last 2 games. Although we've conceded 2 tonight, I don't think you can kind of look at them as defensive errors. Every other game, I fully agree with you. Straight away you're doing that from an early point in the game where you've got a mountain to climb. You've had a lot of players come through the door, probably more than I ever had in pre-season, but I knew it was a difficult time to recruit players when you've come down a league. However, it's still a big club, and it's still a club that people want to play at. It's a lovely facility with good people behind the scenes. So yeah, it took a little bit of tweaking, getting a few trialists in, getting them out the door. And we're in a position now where I think, with 1 or 2, I think we're in a good place.
So the big kick-off is on Saturday week. 3 or 4 more training sessions. I think the players are having a bonding day on Saturday. What are you looking for training-wise before the season starts?
Well, we'll start to touch on little key principles within our shape. Again, that's been very difficult to do with so many bodies at training. We've now trimmed that group, and we can start focusing on certain individuals in key areas. We'll obviously touch on our set plays, which we've scored from 1 tonight. I had to kind of say at half time, and to a couple, we didn't take credit for that one. But we've got to start adding those into our game, because I think they are very, very important at both ends of the pitch. And we'll look to just solidify people in certain areas, a few relationships, and make sure that we're ready. I think in regards to Saturday, we left that as a bit of a blank week. Obviously with the ground show with Edgware, they've got a game, so I have kind of given it to the players, on the back of 2 wins, as a time to go and have a bit of a team day out together, because I think that's so important. It sometimes gets overlooked because of how busy your schedule gets, and as soon as the season starts, they're not really going to have a chance. We've got a lot of new faces, a lot of bodies that don't really know each other, so I think them going out on Saturday can only do us a bit of a positive. I just said make sure it's done with a purpose, because I need to be able to justify to myself and to the chairman the fact that they've got to get a day off Saturday. So hopefully they go and enjoy it, and we reap the benefits from a together group come Saturday.